For a person of trans experience, it's a challenging thing just to get up in the morning, get dressed and step out the door without feeling like a criminal, without having to worry who's going to pelt you, who's going to hurt you, without having to worry if you're even going to come back home in one piece.
Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, a twin island republic whose national anthem states, where every creed and race find an equal place. Yet this is not the reality for this marginalized community.
The government, the society would not create laws for a section of people or society that just doesn't exist. Trans people don't exist.
I remember when I was younger and my parents went to bathe, I would put on my mom's nightie and go and put on her heels and run around the room. And that was fun for me. It wasn't anything that was inherently girly or boyish. It was just me doing what I wanted to do.
Rae Alibey, director of Trinidad and Tobago Transgender Coalition and a caseworker for CAISO Sex and Gender Justice, gives us a better understanding of what being transgender means.
People don't really understand what it is to be trans. They hardly even understand what it is to be queer or gay, so far less when you complicate it with being trans. Because under the trans umbrella, we have the drag queens, the non-binaries, the agenders. We have the binary trans, like the trans men and the trans women. We also have the bigenders. We even have the female impersonators. Anybody who does not exist on male masculine, female feminine, any permutation that happens between these 2 points falls under the trans umbrella. I would have gone on a radio station sometime last year and I did a whole segment on what it is to be intersex and how one understands sex beyond just looking and seeing a penis or a vulva, and understanding that there's some things happen at the chromosomal level, at the hormonal level, in the way identity is shaped and performed.
I think some cultures see us as like a cancer on the organ that is society, but we're not. We're just experiencing the world in a different way.
Meet Taylor, director of Transgender, Non-Binary, Trinidad and Tobago.
So to give you some context, I grew up very religious, to the point that I would consider the church that I was in a cult. I will not say that it's like normal Bible Belt church. It's very much cultish in the way that we interacted. I grew up very much removed from anything secular or anything that wasn't associated with the church. So it wasn't until Form 3 and people started talking about who they liked and who they didn't like, I realized that there was this boy in my church that I did like, and I was like, oh, so what they're talking about is what I'm feeling, but I'm not feeling it for a girl, I'm feeling it for a boy. We started messing around, and that's how I realized I liked boys and I didn't like girls. And Form 4, Form 5, it was like, that doesn't explain everything. There is something else that I just don't feel comfortable. Like if somebody calls me boy or man, it just like irks me so much. So I started like perusing Instagram and I came across a page called, at the time, I can't remember the name it was called, but now it's known as Transgender and Non-Binary Trinidad and Tobago, which is an organization that I am now a director of. And I reached out to them and I was like, what is this thing? And we started talking and they introduced the idea of being trans to me. And I was like, this is the language to the feelings that I'm having. And that's when I realized this is the path that makes me feel most comfortable. Before I met the group, it would have just been my sibling. Because my sibling was on their own journey, but it was a parallel journey. Because they, in the end, also identify as trans and queer. That's pretty much how it was, just talking to them when I could and hearing what they are feeling and getting some level of support there. If I came out and started talking about how I was starting to see the world, I would have been shunned, and it would have been very dangerous for me and my sibling. And my parents were very much in that, and they believed everything that was going on. So we had to hide from them, hide from the church, and maybe come out to our friends.
For many transgender individuals living in Trinidad and Tobago, finding support has been quite difficult. That was until NGO support groups such as Trinidad and Tobago Transgender Coalition 3TC, founded by the late Brandy Rodriguez, was formed.
Trans persons in particular were very discriminated against, had a very difficult time navigating healthcare services. So initially we started advocating for sensitization around trans persons coming to get HIV tests, or those who were positive, how they were treated. So there has been some great progress there in the in soft policies. By say soft policies, like if you were to go to Family Planning Association, TNT, they're very sensitized to trans persons. We have done public health sensitization with nurses. Doctors are a little bit difficult to engage in about trauma-informed trans care, because for a person of trans experience, it is a challenging thing just to get up in the morning, get dressed and step out the door without feeling like a criminal, without having to worry who's going to pelt you, who's going to hurt you, without having to worry if you're even going to come back home in one piece. So by the time you get to an office or a public health care clinic, it's not just the doctors or the nurses in meeting, it's going to be the guard. The guard might start to treat you a particular way. By the time you get into this space, they're misgendering you. You can't represent yourself, you can't be human in that space. And even when people go to a place when they're sick, it's because they're not in the best, and you are there not your best, and people are treating you with contempt or stigma. Oh my God, they love, know what they like to do? When Brandy, in particular, because Brandy lived her life as a trans woman, when she would go to the hospital, this is precisely why she died. She would sit like, no, they come to see to you, they give you the file folders, you fill out the stuff. And then bit by bit, you see everybody come in at the window to check, to see, to check, to see. So all of a sudden, all your business is all over the place, you feel very exposed, you feel threatened. So the work that we have done, which incidentally is the very same thing that took her away from us, was to sensitize doctors and nurses, persons in the healthcare system, about delivering trauma-informed care. So you're seeing the trans person not just as somebody who's coming with a STI or with a fever, but understanding that that person is coming from a place of emotional and psychological hurt. In terms of violence, I don't even have to talk about violence. You see them on the news ever so often. Goldie murdered. This Mirage Venus boy, very beautiful. The guy and this guy, Sasha Fierce, murdered. And that's the ones that actually make the blip or the radar that actually gets reported. So what about those who are not reported, or those who are facing domestic violence in the private spheres of their families? There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of violence towards most at-risk community is the trans community. So there are no laws. So you get beaten up, you get evicted, you get raped, you get thrown out of home as a minor. There's nothing for you. You get fired, there's nothing for you. The Equal Opportunity Act makes it very clear that it is a discriminatory act, because it says very clearly that they will not recognize discrimination based on gender or sexual orientation. And then there's the bathroom drama. I'm telling you, most trans people prefer to not use public restrooms. So if you're trans masculine, you go into the female restroom, which is where they want you to go anyway, it becomes a problem. They want to know what that man doing in there. If you're a trans woman and you go into the men's bathroom and you have all the parts of a male, then either you're at risk to get beaten up violently, or they want to know what this woman is doing in here. So it is very, very uncomfortable actually navigating the society that is not understanding or tolerant of gender diversity.
I will rather feel more comfortable going to a female washroom without having to worry about whether a male just like a female is in the washroom.
I personally find it shouldn't happen, because it's not the right thing to do, and yeah, I don't know what to say.
In addition to these external challenges, transgender individuals often experience internal struggles, most notably a condition known as gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria is like this. You see, for somebody who's a binary trans, somebody who's assigned male at birth but identifies as woman and wants to dress and live their life and navigate the world as a woman, get up in the morning and look at themselves in the mirror and seeing a stubble, or seeing, the harsh jawline, or that I have had clients who would not speak because they have gendered their voices, so the depth in their voice becomes an annoyance to them. or would not even masturbate or touch themselves in the genital area because it is something that feels so foreign to them that they don't see this as being part of themselves. That is some serious gender dysphoria. It's like getting dressed. You know when your mother puts you in a dress long time and you hate it, but they want you to wear it because everybody say it's nice and it's just Sunday best, and no matter what you do, they'll make you wear it and force you to wear it. That is what it's like for a person of trans experience who's of binary trans experience. That this thing that is body they're seeing there, this whole gender performance is just is anathema to them. But then they have like body dysphoria. So there are parts of the body that become specifically distasteful. So we might find some mass women who may not identify as trans, even in intimate relationships. Things like their chest, they don't want their partners touching their chest because it becomes part of the it's uncomfortable, it's not something that they want.
Trying to identify as trans femme or a trans woman, I had these ideas in my mind of what I had to look like, what I had to sound like, how I'm supposed to express myself. And that caused a lot of dysphoria in myself, in my body and my voice. Even to now, I still have some dysphoria with my voice. But now that I identify more on the non-binary spectrum, so my gender is non-binary, but my expression is feminine. So to make it easy for someone who's now meeting me, I would just say that I'm a trans girl and end it there. Being non-binary means that I don't have to fit into either of these arbitrary groups. So I'm able to just be me, whatever that might be. Today, I feel a bit more comfortable with the way that I look. Of course, I think there's something that we can all agree on. You look in the mirror and there's always something that points out to you and you're like, I wish I could change that. That's just a human condition. I don't think it's a trans condition. But younger me, there are some images I just don't want to look at. I feel good with how I look. We have existed for so long, and just because we were colonized, that history was removed, but it's not forgotten.
I would like to see a Trinidad and Tobago that offers gender-affirming care, that does not violate the human rights of trans persons, one where education is safe, where employment is sensitive, where healthcare is just. I would like to see a Trinidad and Tobago that I really like to reimagine Trinidad and Tobago to be a place. You see that thing where every creed and race find an equal place? I would like to see that.